For this project, we will use a superfine yarn. I'm using this yarn called Polycotton, which is a 60% cotton and 40% polyester. We also need a 3.5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, and a pair of scissors. If you're new to this channel, hello there. My name is Kath and I make crochet tutorials. You can follow me on Instagram as well as my Facebook page at What About Yarn. And if you like this video, please leave us a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe. That does help a lot with the algorithm. Begin with a slip knot. And we're going to work up a chain that will go from the armpit down to the waistline or down to the length of your choice. For my size, that will be a total of 47 chains. Once you have your chain, we're going to work a half double crochet in the third chain from the hook. And to do that, we're going to yarn over and insert the hook in the third chain, grab the yarn and pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on the hook, and yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. Now we're going to repeat that same stitch into each chain. End of row 1. Now continue with row 2, starting with a chain of 2. Chain 2 here will count as 1 stitch and turn your work. Now for row 2, we're going to work a half double crochet stitch, but this time we will insert the hook in the back loop of the next stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook in the back loop of the next stitch and work a half double crochet stitch as usual. Repeat this stitch all the way until you get to the end. Here at the end of row 2, we're going to work our last stitch in the second chain of the turning chain 3. Our last stitch will be a normal half double crochet. Now moving on to row 3, we're going to chain 2. And again, chain 2 here will count as 1 stitch and turn your work. And from here, we're going to repeat the same pattern as row 2 until we have a total of 6 rows. Next, we're going to work the increasing rows in the upper part of our top. Now to do the increases, we're going to chain 2. Chain 2 here will count as 1 stitch and turn your work. Now since chain 2 will count as 1 stitch, and we're going to do an increasing stitch, so we're going to work a half double crochet stitch in that same stitch. This means that we have 2 stitches in 1 stitch, the turning chain 2 and the half double crochet. Now continue with a half double crochet back loop in each of the stitches until you get to the end of this row. At the end of the row, we're going to chain 2. And again, chain 2 will count as 1 stitch and turn your work, and continue with a half double crochet working in the back loop until we reach the turning chain 2 stitch. End of row 8. Now we're going to work our last stitch in the turning chain 2, since the turning chain 2 here counts as 1 stitch. So work a normal half double crochet in the second chain of the turning chain 2. Now since we are in the increasing part, we're going to add another half double crochet in that same stitch. That means in each row, we're going to increase 1 stitch. Now for the next row, we're going to chain 2 and turn your work. And we're going to repeat the same pattern as what we did in the previous row. So work a half double crochet in the same chain. And continue with a half double crochet back loop in each of the stitches all the way until you reach the end. And you're going to repeat this pattern, increasing 1 stitch in the upper part of the top, or until you have a total of 8 rows for the increases, or until the length of the panel will reach the front of the chest. Next, chain 2. And from here, we're not going to do any increases anymore, so continue with a half double crochet back loop until the length of your panel will reach the center or the middle part of the chest. If you prefer a more fitted top, please feel free to stretch the panel as you measure it against your chest. Now fasten off, and we're going to repeat the same pattern from the very beginning to create the mirror or the second panel of the top. After that, we're going to connect both of these panels in the middle part using a slip stitch or with any technique of your choice. Next, attach the yarn in the last increasing row of the armhole, and from there we're going to work up a chain that will go all the way to the base of the neck. For my size, that will be a total of 33 chains. Once you have your chain, we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. Now chain 1. Skip 1 chain and work 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. 1 and 2. Now let's repeat that pattern again. Chain 1, skip 1, 2 double crochet, and you will repeat this pattern all the way until you reach the end of your row. Now here at the end, we're going to skip the row where our yarn is attached, and we're also going to skip the next row, and we're going to slip stitch in the next 2 rows. So skip 2 and slip stitch 2. So slip stitch, and again another slip stitch. Now turn your work. And from here, we're just going to repeat the pattern that we did for the previous row. So double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet until you reach the end. When you reach the end, we're going to double crochet in the 3rd chain of the turning chain 3. That ends row number 2. Moving on to row number 3, we will chain 3. Chain 3 will count as 1 stitch and turn your work. And again, repeat the same pattern all the way until you reach the end. And once you get to the end of this row, we will repeat as well the same pattern that we did at the very beginning. So skip the next 2 rows and slip stitch twice. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So slip stitch and another slip stitch. Now turn your work. So this will be the pattern that you will repeat all the way until you reach the other side of the panel. And when you get to the end, we're going to slip stitch in the next row. As you can see here, I only have 1 row left, so I'm going to skip that row and I will slip stitch in the next row. After that, we will fasten off and cut the yarn. Now you're going to repeat everything from the very beginning to create the second panel. Here I have both of my panels, and as you can see, my seam is facing upward and the other one is facing downward. We'll do this so that we can connect both of the panels from the inside out. So using a slip stitch or with any technique of your choice, we're going to connect the sides as well as the shoulder, which will be about 1.5 inches on both sides. Next, we're going to attach the yarn in the seam at the armhole of our top and chain 1. Chain 1 here does not count as a stitch, and from here we're going to half double crochet into each of the rows, and we're also going to work a half double crochet in each of the stitches and the chain 1 spaces. When you get to the end, we're going to slip stitch in the first half double crochet stitch and fasten off and cut the yarn. Now you're going to repeat the same thing as well for the other armhole. Moving on to the last part of this project, which is the ties. Now as you can see here, we have here the middle seam. From the middle seam, we're going to count 4 rows. And on the 4th row, we're going to attach the yarn and make a chain of 80. Now without twisting the chains, we're going to half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook and half double crochet in each of the chain until you get to the end of the row. From there, you will work 1 half double crochet in each of the row, going all the way to the back, and finally ending your last stitch in the 4th row from the middle seam. Here at the end of my round, I worked my last stitch in the 4th row from the middle seam. And from here, we're going to continue with the same amount of chains as we did previously and work a half double crochet into each of those chains until we reach the end. At the end, we're going to continue with a half double crochet into each of the stitches, going all the way around until we reach the upper part of our opposite ties. So do that and meet me back later once you get to that part. I'm now in the last stitch at the top part of my opposite ties, and from there we're going to add another 2 half double crochet. That means we have a total of 3 stitches in the very last stitch. Now continue working half double crochet in each of the stitches at the opposite part of the ties, going all the way to the end. And once you get to the end, we're going to work a half double crochet stitch in each of the rows. Now continue with a half double crochet going towards the opposite ties and repeat the same pattern until you reach the other side. And when you get to the end, we will slip stitch in the next row and fasten off and cut the yarn, and finally weave in all of the ends. Friends, that marks the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions, please write them down in the comment box below and I'll do my best to answer them. If you like this video, please leave us a thumbs up. Now on my next video, I'm going to show you how to create this crop top with a split short ruffles. As always, have a good day. I'll see you on that video.